Welcome back everyone, Jared here. This is another tutorial by Mysterious Tide Games. This time I figured we would go over just the basics about Blender for those who are just starting out, those who need to know how to use it, those who really want to get into modeling or animation, and just really want to know where to start so that they can get off on the right footing. To break this down, first of all, I'll tell you a little bit about Blender. So what is it? It's an open source 3D creation software. Now it's capable of modeling, rigging, animation, and more. It can be used for almost anything. Many people use it for video creation, game creation for indie developers, animations and model creations and texturing. Some people even use it, many people use it for 3D printing. Now, Blender 4.2 LTS is the most recent version at this time. That's what I'm using. You'll see it up at the top left, Blender 4.2. LTS stands for long-term support. This means that they'll typically support it for 2 years, and it'll be a long-running major version. Now, Blender is free and open source. There are other programs out there, such as Maya, which is another big one. There's more too, but Maya and Blender, those are the two main ones. And then they typically import those models into Unity or Unreal Engine. Blender normally works well with Unity, while Maya has native support with Unreal Engine. But you can mix and match. You're not locked in with Blender and Unity. You can use Blender with Unreal Engine, which is something I'm doing. And there are some plugins that you can use to import things properly into Unreal Engine. And I would make sure to figure out for yourself, and if you are a startup company, which you would like to use, because there are some royalties attached to certain software after you make a certain amount of money off of it, if you are selling things from it. So if you're going out, you're trying to be an indie developer, an indie game developer, and you want to make cash off of that, then the royalties and where you can sell to maximize your profits is extremely important. So right from the very beginning, if that is what you're trying to do, research that right away so you know what program you should start with. Now, the great thing is with Blender, as well as Maya and others, if you know the concepts, it does carry over into other programs, other software, but the use is different. The way that the program is designed is different. The layout is different, but the concept is the same. You can use Blender and make an easier transition into Maya or vice versa, depending just on a few factors. Kind of like learning a language, right? If you learn a language new, it may be difficult, but if you already know multiple languages, and then you learn a new one, the concept is normally similar depending on the language. And one last thing I'd like to mention briefly is that do not become intimidated by the UI. There's a lot here. You see many tabs, a lot of icons. Most of these you will not be using. Assume you may be using possibly 20% of what you see here initially. Don't get too overwhelmed. Now let's go ahead and move into our first tutorial, UI.